What's up, everybody? This is BakaBites. I'm Frankfurter. That is Magically Average. And today we're doing something a little different. I have a surprise prepared for Magically Average. And that is
Mm.
in the sense today, welcome to Otaku Time Machine, a show that takes you through the anime archives of yesteryears. I'm your
Ah,
captain, Frankfurter, and with me today is Magically Average. And the show
why?
we will be reviewing, we will be going back to the magical year of 2024/2025, in which we will be reviewing Orb on the Movements of Earth.
Oh, because you watched it? Is this a surprise?
I finally watched it for
Oh,
you,
for
buddy,
crying out
and we're
loud.
here to talk about it. We'll give
Do I
our
have to change
non-spoilers
do I have to change the title of the Twitch?
only if you want to, buddy,
Oh
but,
my god.
yeah, so we're gonna get into this without spoilers first, and then we'll get into spoilers. Yeah, it took me a month to get through just because I'd been busy the past few weekends, and doing it during the weekdays is also very difficult, especially with keeping up with current shows. Which I am behind on a few things, like multiple episodes on a few things, and then like I'm one episode behind on just a handful of other shows. So trying to keep up and then throw in a 25 episode show is not the most, or it's challenging in an adult's day and age, I will say. But also getting into non spoilers, I mean, you love this show,
Yes.
correct? Like this was your show of the year last year. You probably gave it a
Well,
10 out of 10.
I guess technically if it's up for nomination this upcoming Crunchyroll Awards season. It's my
That's
number
true if
it's
it
my
is.
number one show by far for this next lineup of Crunchyroll nominees.
Gotcha. Okay. For me, I watched it. I mean, I watched it in the chunks that it was probably supposed to be, other than the fact that I was halfway through chunk 2 yesterday and just binged through the rest of it. Um, this show is split into parts. There's part 1, part 2, part 3, and then the final part, which is the last 2 episodes of the show. And boy, do those 2 episodes throw me through a goddamn loop to the point
Mhm.
where I'm like, "What the fuck just happened?"
Mhm.
Um, so getting into it, with no spoilers, I can tell that this show is great. I know that this is a great show. This sort of time period, this sort of just kind of, timepiece and just, like, what it's kinda covering, not interesting at all for me. Like, I
Mm.
understand that it's a great show. I can fully give it its roses, but boy howdy was I bored at times. I was just
Mm.
not this did not captivate me like it captivated you.
Mm.
And I know that's a little sad to hear, and I know
Mm.
you kinda, like, are gonna wanna try and, like, change my mind,
No, no.
but, like, I could not get into it for the life of me. I can recognize that it is a great show. Like, it was well done, the story was well paced, but the subject matter just I could care less.
Hmm.
So, it's a little unfortunate, but I will say part 3 of the 4 parts was my favorite part by far, um,
Y-
which was,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's I
so
mean that's when the story starts to really unravel, but hmm.
yeah, and it's probably just like a culmination of just like everything, and then part 4 is just kind of what the fuck,
Hmm.
and just kinda leaves you there to just sit with your thoughts, but yeah, to kinda go into it, we have part 1, which revolves around which is a very short part, it's like only 3 or 4 episodes, something like that, of the 25 episodes, revolves around a 12-year-old named Rafal? I don't actually remember how to pronounce his
Raphael
name. No,
or
it's
Raf or
Rafal. Rafal?
yeah, Raffle. Raffle.
Raffle, Nowak, Hubert, which is a heretic who was imprisoned for the research, he's barely in it. He's in it for a little bit, but not that much. And, Pataki, which was basically Rafal's father, and Nowak being the inquisitor that, is present throughout the entirety of the series. Part 2 revolves around, 2 men, which their names are Oski and, Badini. I don't know
Hmm.
if I'm pronouncing those right either,
Father
but,
Bedini.
uh, yeah, those are the next 2 people that this show kind of revolves around, and then you have a few more supporting casts. The most important other than, the Inquisitor Nowak would be Yolenta, who is the daughter of Nowak. And then part 3, it revolves around, Draka and, just kind of continues the story, and then it just goes into the final part, which revolves around a lad named Albert. So yeah, again, I think that like I can understand, I can tell why people love it. I understand that it is a good show. Critically, I could tell you like, yeah, it's probably an 8 out of 10 for me. Like that would how it be how I rate it. But at the same time, like it was boring. To me, it was boring in the sense that I just could not connect with the subject matter, like, of what they were talking about. It just wasn't interesting to me. Like, if you're gonna do a historical piece, this was not it. And I think a part of that does come from the fact that I went to Catholic school from kindergarten to the end of high school, and religion was just crammed down my throat to the point where it's just like, man, boy, howdy, am I fucking just absolutely done with just religion and cramming down throats because this show is a lot of that. But to get into kind of the plot of the show, it revolves around the 15th century in which. In this fictional world, believing in heliocentrism is will brand you as a heretic. So believing anything other than the fact that the Earth is the center of the universe will brand you as a heretic, and you will basically be burned at the stake for being a witch or wizard, depending on your or heretic or witch. I don't know why they didn't call women's heretics. It's kind of really weird. They're like, no, you're a witch. Fuck you, which is really weird to me. But I guess it kind of goes along with the times. And basically, it just revolves around these set of characters trying to get heliocentrism out of the darkness and out of the bad standing light of the church and be like, no, this is the true way the world works or how the earth rotates and rotates around the universe. Uh, that is kind of just the general sum plot of the story. Again, not my cup of tea, but I understand. And I think that there's really not much more I can say without hopping into spoilers. So if there's something you want to say without
No, no,
hopping into spoilers, by all
no. I've
means.
I've talked at lengths about this anime, so you carry on.
Okay, then if you've not watched Orb on the Movements of Earth, by all means, please say goodbye, watch it, come back, let us know if you're in my camp or in Magically Average's camp. But let's get into the spoilers. So part one I thought was good, but I was not expecting it to be that quick. I understand why now that it was so quick because it was just kind of like the base setting of let's introduce the world and introduce heliocentrism and the inquisitor that the show is going to semi revolve around and in Nowak. And I get it from like watching the rest of the whole thing that like yes, Rafal had to die and he died uh not necessarily tragically, but you know, he went out on his own terms in the sense of like, I'm gonna stand up for my beliefs. I believe this to be true. You're not gonna tell me otherwise. You're not gonna kill me for it. I'd rather die on my own terms and take my own life, which he does using poppy seeds, like very high concentration of poppy seeds, and just commits suicide. And that whole entirety of his beliefs and how he would die for it, we find out in the end of part three, stays with Nowak in the sense that he is just like, I don't know if I've ever believed in anything to the point like that was the only thing that really like stayed with me in this whole career of inquisitor type deal in which he was saying that yeah, you know, this shook me to my core because I would never like I don't really believe in anything to the point where I would die for it, and then realizes that his whole life is basically a lie and that he is the villain. But that is the end of part three. So part two, I get it's the setup of the show. It's here's one main character or main key piece of the puzzle. Here's the setting, etc. Let's move on to part two. And then part two introduces us to Oski and Bendini, which basically I like to think of this as the Princess Bride as Andre the Giant and the guy who just always repeats inconceivable, and I can't think of the actor's name. I just think of it as those two. It's like one is just kind of a country hick, doesn't really know anything other than swordplay, while the other is just this like brilliant man who is just like, I will do anything to put my name out there, become famous, and like and make sure that the things that I believe in, like, other people believe in too, but I am the one, like, I will go down in history. So it's interesting to see just such a tonal shift in main characters that are believing in heliocentrism and trying to put it out there. I think that they are really well written characters in the sense that they are, you know, really driven by their beliefs. With Oski also trying to learn and learn how to read and write, and asking Yolenta for help with that. And I find it awe-inspiring in the sense that his journal was the thing that survived their kind of part. It wasn't Oski, it wasn't Badini, it wasn't, Badini was this monk who's, the brilliant monk who, like, his research, he was like, yeah, it spans notebooks. It's not really easy to transfer into a book that everybody can kind of read and understand. Like, this is extensive stuff. But you, Oski, your book and the way that you have written is from a wildly different thing that we've never seen in books before, and that is like, here's the story through my perspective. Here's the self perspective, basically self autobiography of what we went through and what is going on in the world at the time. And my confusion starts here just a little bit in the sense of, did Badini steal his journal every day and write it on the back of people's heads to pass it on? Or how the fuck did his book get passed on? Because Badini burned his book. So that's the one thing that I wasn't too entirely sure about. Because Oski, at the very end of part two, when they both die and the homeless people aren't getting their monthly or weekly, daily, whatever portion of bread from Oski, Badini had said, "Hey, if you don't hear from us for like in a month's time, like at a month's time, go to this church, talk to this person, he will bring you in." Conversely, Bedini left the person at the church a note who knows that he's kind of teetering on the edge of like, yes, I want to know his research. I want to have that thirst for knowledge. But I don't want to go against the church. But at the same time, if something comes along that is like, oh my God, this is revelation, like this is just a huge revelation, like he will switch. He will switch teams essentially and be like, "Yes, I am part of the heretic group." So my thought is, was it, how did his journal get to basically the final place? Was it on the back of the people's heads? Was there a backup copy of the journal? Cuz like, if it was on the back of people's heads, how the fuck did Oski get the journal? Did he just steal it every night? Like, that's the one part I don't really understand. Which I will
Uh,
ask for your assistance here.
I'd have to go back and rewatch that scene. I mean, I know what happens, but I believe the implication was that Benedini was taking the journal that Oski was writing and had gone and because he kept telling him like, don't feed the homeless, like they have to work for themselves. But he kept doing it, and so I think he was following him, and then basically confronted the homeless people and was like, "Hey, FYI, if you don't listen to me, I'm just gonna kill you. But if you want to keep getting bread, just play along," and then tattooed the scripture of what Oski was writing on the back of their skulls. Um,
Yeah.
and then yeah, he told him like, "Hey, FYI, if you don't hear from us in like a month's time, go there, talk with the priest, the father, the minister, whomever, and he'll set you on your way."
Yeah. So that was basically like general broad strokes of part 2. The things we didn't talk about is the
Part two is my
addition
favorite,
to
by the
the
way.
okay. And I understand why, like, again, I understand why this show is well critically acclaimed and why what like wildly liked. But also in part 2, the kind of other piece that is happening here is, you're following the story of Yolenta, who is, as I previously mentioned, the daughter of Noack, as the Inquisitor. She doesn't know what her dad does, but excuse me, I had a hiccup burp there. That was really weird. But
Gross.
Yolenta does know that like his father or her father loves her very much and will let her pursue this, like the pursuit of knowledge. Essentially, to just be like, "Hey, I want to study," and he's like, "You know what? You're my daughter. I love you unconditionally. Go for it. Go study." But because we're in the 15th century, every time she wants to publish a paper, she has to go through her quote unquote mentor, which is just basically another person at the church, and they publish it under their name rather than her name. So basically, she does not get any of the credit. And when she finally publishes her first paper, and it's under his name, because at this point she had only helped with research until now. Uh, she kind of becomes fed up and like just like, no, fuck that. I want the credit. I want this to be in my name because I did this. You didn't do this. I did. So it kind of follows her journey into the basically rebelling against the church in the sense of wanting to do all the research and have her name out there, but dealing with the church who was just like, no, if you are a woman and you publish papers and you have a thought that is intellectual, you are probably possessed by a demon or you are a witch. So it's kind of like she finds Oski and Bandini and helps them with their research and just like because they're so accepting of heliocentrism and other, kind of wildly different thoughts that they're like, yeah, women researcher, cool, great, don't care. As long as your research is
Well,
solid and you can explain it, that's fine.
they put up a challenge on like the town bulletin
Yeah.
effectively.
Like a really complex math equation
Yeah.
essentially.
And they noticed that she was able to like solve it and
Yeah,
we're
it
like,
was right
"Hey."
place, right time, like, she was posting her answers and they saw her there and she's like, "Oh, no, this is my mentors," and
Yeah.
they're like, "Are you sure
Some
about that?" And
some
start
man,
questioning
a
her.
male did this.
Yeah,
Definitely for sure a guy, not me. Anywho,
yeah, they start questioning her about it, and then she kind of fesses up to the point where she's just like, "Yes, I wanna do research, I want it to be in my name, it was me who did this," and they're like, "Great, cool, help us with our research," and so it's the part revolves around, kind of the stuff happening in the background with Oski and, Bandini, and then, really focuses in and hones in on Yolenta and her pursuit of knowledge and helping these two out studying the stars and heliocentrism to the point where they convert a dying man at the church whose like only thought was yes my viewpoint is the only thing. I had one moment of weakness as a child when my eyes were really good in which I thought I saw Jupiter in its full rotation, but that was just a silly false lie. There's no way. And they go out sightseeing one night or stargazing one night, and Oski notices that Jupiter has done its basically nearly in full rotation or full. I forget when it's like fully bright, but basically confirms that yes, whatever the priest was saying was completely false, and basically the priest has to come to terms with his whole entirety of his life was built on upon like a throne of lies, and his research meant nothing at the end of the day. To the point where he's like, "Have my research. Here's like 30 years worth of data on the stars. Please let the truth be known." And like dies a week later. So yeah, these two they do all their research, and just when they think that they're like about to publish their book because they've got like the research done, they have explanations, but not like to the point where they think they can win in a court. So they think, okay, we'll publish this as a book. Just as they're about done with it, fucking big old bad Nowak decides to butt in on the three of their dinners, both Oski, Badini, and Yolenta. And Yolenta, being his daughter, doesn't think twice. Is just like, "Oh, thank you so much. Like, we greatly appreciate it. Like, taking my daughter in and like letting her study with you." After dinner, sends her home. Is like, "Hey, you two, you're gonna come in for questioning," and basically finds them to be heretics. Uh, Takes them in, tortures them, gets answers out of them, and then just burns them at the stake. Or no, they don't burn at the stake. They are the 2 that hang, and then he hangs them essentially. All while
mhm.
this is happening, a different inquisitor who doesn't like, Nowak decides, "Hey, his daughter's a part of this. I'm gonna take her in and kill her as a heretic." So he basically crumbles, looks bad in the church's eyes, and I can get a promotion. And while
You're
that
just
happens,
really just going through the whole story, huh?
I'm just gonna go through the whole story because at this point, it's
Okay.
just like, I like I get it, and yeah. Long of it short, Yolenta escapes, and we start part 3, which I think part 3 is the best because, as you said, it kind of all unravels. But the moral of the story is that, like I had said before, Nowak kind of comes under the gun in the sense that he realizes I am the bad guy in this story. History is only going to repeat itself until it progresses because there has never been a time and place where heliocentrism in this fictional world has ever been like covered up completely to the point where nobody talks about it. It always thrives. It always will be. Somebody else will come along and find the truth and present it again. There's no stopping it. Um, so to like him come to that conclusion by the end of part 3 and basically have every other person in the story die with like you would think the end of heliocentrism being like okay, this is the end. It's just the end of this one branch off this tree that is overarching that has many other branches of people you will never realize are part of this. And that kind of is portrayed a little bit in the first episode of part 4 where we meet Albert who is a assistant bread maker at a bakery in which he goes to a church and sees a confessional, which, yes, I know confessionals weren't made popular or weren't historically seen for the first time until the 16th century. However, he sees a confessional for the first time, goes into the confessional, and tells his story of his life and why he used to love research, why he's not trying to go to university to continue research. And you see him go to a meeting of intellectuals where Raffle, whatever, however the
I
fuck
think
you
it's
want to pronounce
Rafal.
his name, Rafal, uh, is his like teacher, is his mentor. Like the 12-year-old is his mentor at this time because he is like 6 or 8 years old or something like this. And this is where everything kind of threw me through a loop because the timelines didn't match, and that's where I
Uh,
had to look up. Part 4 is in based in actual reality, while the rest of the like show episodes 1 through 23 were a fictional world. So that one threw me through a loop that that was what the author was going for. Um
oh, I guess I didn't look into. I was under the impression that he actually survived the burning at the stake because there was an implication at the burning of the stake that he because no one witnessed it in part 1. Like they
mm,
all couldn't, they couldn't stand watching a 12-year-old burn at the stake, and that he had poisoned himself with just the right amount to be perceived as dead, but they still have to burn it because at the
right.
time, regardless, you still had what effectively was like a demon inside you as a heretic or something
Yeah,
possessing you or your soul.
but Nowak would have done it because he
No,
always every single one of his.
they all turned away. Noack wasn't even in attendance for that one. He
No, I know, but all of the people that Nowak executes, he is there and he watches until they are completely dead.
except Rafal. He did not do
Except
that.
for Rafal, he let him die in his jail cell, but after the time you are correct, they woulda
Right.
had to bring his body out and they woulda had to
So
burn it.
the
So my
implication, because no one actually witnessed it, because they there I think there was commentary at the time of them setting the pyre that they were like, no one could witness this because it was
right,
tragic to see a 12-year-old effectively take their own
throw his
life.
life away. Yeah.
Yeah. So and with the orb that he was given to by Hubert, who was the heretic that drove
In
Rafal
part
to
1.
in part 1 to go research more and like actually take up his research and continue it.
Yep.
He has this like orb that is you can
Present
line it
in
up with,
every part.
yes, it continues through every part, but you can line it up with Orion's belt, I think, which is kind of
Yeah,
like
so
where for the
it's got
sightseeing. Yeah.
yeah, it's got 3 dots in it as if it's Orion's belt, so it's look for Orion's belt. It lines up with a mountain pass, basically a mountain, and then the middle star of Orion leads to the pathway to the stone chest that has all the research.
Yeah.
Um,
But Noack takes it from the pyre, but there's nothing there. Like they don't
right.
make mention of like anything about the body, afterwards, like the
It's true, but yeah, so my brain thought this happened all before he died and he was persecuted.
oh, I took it as post. I took
He
it as
survived.
he
Okay.
survived,
So
escaped, and continued his research elsewhere.
looking into it, it is episodes 24 and 25, part 4 are based in actual reality. They don't actually mention heliocentrism whatsoever in these 2 parts because at the time Heliocentrism was still like it was a thing. It was a thing that was created, but as like a hypothetical, and people accepted it as a hypothetical. People didn't persecute you over heliocentrism and for believing in it, because everybody believed it. Would say hypothetically, if this were true, this is how the world would move, or this is how the universe would move. And people are like, as a hypothetical, yeah, that sounds good, but it's only a hypothetical. So at the time, like at this time period, none of heliocentrism was like outcasted, none of it was persecuted. But episodes 24 and 25 being based in reality, they don't mention it because that wasn't a thing. And so basically 8-year-old kid who goes to a party with Rafal and all these other like-minded people, uh, survives basically Rafal in the sense that Rafal goes back to his dad's like, his place to kill his dad while he's at the party because he wants his dad's research. And so, this baker's assistant is in this confessional talking, pouring his guts out as to why he doesn't wanna do it, go to university because he thinks that doing research and believing in research and the pursuit of knowledge will only lead to death because of what happened to his father. And the other thing that confused the shit out of me is that if we were keeping in line with the actual timeline, Rafal was 12 when he died. And this man said, I am 25, 26, something like that.
Somewhere
So
in
even
there.
if he was, we'll call it at the youngest 5 years old, it would have been 20 years ago, which makes no sense timeline wise because only 5 years would have passed when the priest had abandoned his friend who let Yolenta die, like go, essentially. So that was the implication, is that the priest in the box that was listening to this confessional was the friend that was helping the other guy torture Yolenta when Yolenta was brought in. But when his buddy let Yolenta go, he just had to watch his friend die. He couldn't do anything about it. That was the assumption. It was just like
I thought the
this is
priest.
now a
I thought the priest
hmm?
was quite old.
Yeah, that's why I was like, this timeline doesn't make sense, because how does a guy go from being a young 20-year-old to 5 years passing essentially, and he looking like he's fucking ancient?
Well, I
That's
mean,
why I had to. Yeah,
in fairness, it's the 15th century. I think the age of like the ripe old
Noack
age of
didn't
50
didn't
was.
I know, but Noack didn't age that nearly that fast in this show, so it was just like, okay,
Noack,
what the fuck is going on here?
between parts 2 and 3, he aged like fine milk.
Yeah, it was 25 years, and he aged wonderfully. It was just like,
I
what
don't.
the
He looked like he was.
I think he aged pretty well for 25 years because he was probably 50 at that point, and he looked fine.
He looked like an 80-year-old.
Not really.
Yeah.
Not like the priest who died in the part 2 who gave all his research and wasted effort of his whole life was a lie.
Wow.
But but yeah, no, so I had to look it up because I was like, these timelines don't fucking make sense if this is the same guy. And that's when I found out that yes, the last 2 episodes are based in reality. So, but back to the point 4, in which this whole show was like a branch in a tree in a giant forest, essentially, is that you saw that there were so many unsuspecting different people at this gathering of intellectuals, with different ideas allowed to, you know, say their ideas out loud without being persecuted. That you know, the heliocentrism was never going to go away. In the story, it was somehow it would find a way. And then part 4 being the sense of, okay, now we're back in reality. Let's give you a push, and here's your push, and you know what it could take to push somebody into the world of knowledge. And I do appreciate that message, that it was just like, hey, if you have a pursuit of something you want to do, do it, and don't, believe in it, but also keep an open mind and be accepting of the fact that you may be wrong. And if you are wrong, figure out how to make it right, or, what is right in the pursuit of like truth and of knowledge. So I did like that message. It's just, I didn't care for heliocentrism versus the fucking
Geocentrism.
geocentrism. Thank you. But yeah, no, that's basically the story of the show. So if you have not watched it and you've continued listening to us, there you go. We didn't really
No, it's
summarize part three, but part three can be like, hey, we've got a book. We got to publish this book, and everything goes wrong along the way. That's basically part three. But yeah, no, thoughts, comments, concerns about me?
no. Yeah, I mean, outside of this conversation, yeah, but um, no, I mean, I've already talked about it at length. I feel like I think while your message is not incorrect, I think the stronger message that's relayed throughout the entirety of the show is that the truth will always persevere, right?
Right.
And it doesn't matter who you are, or what your background is, or what your own personal beliefs excuse me, but the truth will always come forward. And I think that was exemplified in part 3, where our main character is this girl who, I think the implication is that comes from a more like indigenous people.
Yeah,
They
nomads is what they call
yeah,
them, but
and they barter and they travel around town. They're not gypsies, but yeah, they consider themselves nomads. They try to take what they can get from townsfolk and in trades, and they kind of provide for themselves. But living in that lifestyle, she was always like, I just want to make money. My whole pursuit in life is to make money, because she watched her father die, uh, and
for the money.
have his money taken from him. And she was like, oh, so money controls the world. I just need to make a lot of money, and then I'll be fine.
I do like the image, like, immediately for part 3 where she unlocks, like, the basically the savings of the entire town and just lays in it and is like, "This isn't enough."
Yeah, I know.
It
They
was kind of fun.
and she gets tied into the efforts of the heretics to push forward the teachings of heliocentrism. And,
Under the guise that she would be able to use the printing press for whatever she wanted to.
well, under the guise that, like, she realized, hey, there's people that want it on both sides. There's the people that want it to keep it safe and print it and disseminate it throughout the world. And then there's the people on the other side who want to destroy it and kill everyone that's ever known anything about it. And so she kind of plays both sides to be like, I can help you, but for money. I can be an asset to you, but you have to pay me, right? But as she goes through this ordeal, she starts in her own heart to believe truly, like, oh no, like, while their efforts are wild, and the lengths that they're going to share this information with everyone, I'm starting to understand why, because it is powerful. And it's
Yeah.
you know it, while she admits, like, she doesn't really know much about it at all, but just through reading it, she's kind of astonished at what facts she's able to decipher, and what the message is really saying. And
And the fact
obviously,
that it was written as, like, a biography rather than just, like, or an
yeah,
autobiography rather than just be like,
like
"Here's
a
just a
like a
study." Like, here's
textbook.
just yeah, here's pure research.
Yeah. um so it's nice to see that level of growth at the end, but she still keeps her true goal in mind, which is, I do want to make money. I want to be rich.
Money, please.
So, but
Yeah,
I think whether or not you gravitate towards this side of history, where, as me being a history buff, I adored it. Um, there is some factual accuracy to a degree during the time
yeah,
period of the church persecuting those who fought against the preachings of the gospel. And you have obviously the many years of the Christian crusades throughout Europe, throughout most of
yep.
Europe, actually, on many different plights, right? So, for whether it's against other religions or intellectual teachings, whatever the case is, right? So there's some factual accuracy to that, and obviously, granted, it's still a dramatized version to the fullest extent possible. But I think the manner in which it's portrayed, the messaging behind each part, And then not to mention just the characters themselves are
Yeah,
just so everything's
I
just so well orchestrated.
I think that the character writing was definitely the best part of this entire series. Like the characters were so grounded in belief and so grounded in their nature that it's just like they felt like real people despite being all fictional. Uh, that like I think that that is probably the best thing that this show has going for it. The world, yes, the world building, like I understand, it is what it is. It's
It,
factual to a degree, but
I wouldn't
like it,
even
they did well. But yeah, I don't know.
I
It's
wouldn't
just
even consider
one of
that
those.
world building though. It's mainly just like time setting, right? Like you're setting the point in history where this is taking place. Like you didn't really much care about what church they were going to or what city this was taking place in or where they were actually adventuring off to. It's like all you had to do was just set the time period of, hey, you're living in this is a point in history where the church is government, it's your higher education, it's everything you need to know in life is the church, right? And if you're not a
Right.
part of it, there's going to be people knocking at your door. Unless you stay
Get
very
with
very
it
quiet
or
and you stay in the shadows and you don't step out of line. Like you can be that person. You can just avoid the church at all costs just so long as you keep your mouth shut and you follow orders, then you're okay. But other than that,
yeah.
like everyone else in society was following the teachings of the church and the messages that were coming out from the different ministries and everything like that. So yeah, like that's that's all you really need to know. Like I couldn't give a shit where that last city was that Albert lived in. It popped up on screen, like, I think once or twice, and I was like, I don't. Okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay,
I think
right.
the other thing that confused me as to why I had to like look it up too, and I'm still confused because if the last two episodes are based in reality and not fiction, the note that Draka sends at the very end before she dies appears at the very end of part four, where it's like this person is like who owns this house is saying like you will gain 10% of the profits
Yeah,
for this book when it's published. And it's just like, wait a second, if this is factual, what the fuck is going on? If this
yeah,
timeline
it's
is
the connected
thrown through a
timeline.
whole fucking loop, and it's just like,
See, that's why like, I mean, I'm not refuting the the split timeline, like the
right,
95% of the show was fiction, the last 5% was, I guess, grounded in reality. Like, not refuting that if that's what the author said. The beauty of it though is that when I watched it, I didn't even question that. It all connected in my mind. I was like, you can make your connections through, like, yeah, Rafal didn't actually die, he faked it to escape. This is years later, he because they don't mention his age at the for the last two episodes. You're just like, oh, he's got to be like probably early 20s, then mid 20s ish, we can assume. It's probably like 10 plus years after his
yeah. If
part
you
one.
if you assume that he survived, yeah,
Yeah,
sure,
yeah, you can make a connection like that. The priest, yeah, I was like, okay, weird, but I guess if Raphael was 25 at the time when Albert was like 8, and now Albert's 24 or whatever, that'd be 16 years later, which means that Raphael would be what, like 38 years old. Like, I could do you could do math, and it's like, okay, fine, whatever, I can make it kind of work. But I didn't even, like, my brain didn't even go there. I was so captivated by just how everything flowed between each part and how seamless it seemed, like they were able to connect the key fragments of each portion,
my
each story that was
yeah,
told to one another.
my brain didn't go there until the priest was
Because
like,
your
"Oh
brain
yeah,
was
abandoned
bored.
my friend," and I'm just like,
Your
"Wait a second,
brain was
hold on."
bored.
I don't know if it was bored,
You
but
you
well, it
started
was
off. You
bored, but
said you said that you said the show was good. I was just bored. It was literally your first thing you
I
said
just
about
yeah,
Orb.
I don't care about
No,
heliocentrism or
and I'm not.
geocentrism.
I'm
So
not
yeah,
faulting
but
you. I'm
I'm still trying to follow the story and, like, in my brain, when they throw so many dates at you and they're, like, just switching parts, it's like 25 years later,
yeah.
5 years later, whatever, it's
Like
just like, okay, my brain's gonna like, that's the one thing that I'm focused on, I'm like, "Okay, my brain's gonna keep up with that."
because again, so all right, let me connect it with something else that I am very passionate about to a degree. But the movie Interstellar, okay, critically acclaimed, nominated. Think it might have won an award or two, right? people find
Look
it
it
to
up.
be. You've never seen Interstellar?
No, no, no. If it won an award, I've
Oh,
seen the
okay.
movie.
I was like, this is gonna get lost on you then if you've never seen Interstellar.
I was working
Yeah,
at a movie theater when it came out, and
yeah. Matthew
I got to
McConaughey, like it was a good movie, right?
right.
I was not as infatuated with it like many others. And so at the end, with the whole black hole sequence, I'm not going to spoil things for people, right? The black hole sequence and all that stuff, I was like, no, this makes no sense. This makes no sense. Because, in the words of astrophysicists and others who have studied black holes, the only thing that they can calculate is that there is a quote, spaghettification that takes place. That's not false. You can go look it up. They've done immense studies, still don't know really anything about black holes except for the fact that there is a somewhat of a spaghettification that takes place if you were to enter one, okay? So my brain at the end was like, this is dumb. This is stupid. Like, and I'm trying to wrap my mind around like how they can piece all this together and make people believe like, oh, this is so great, right? That's because I got bored and I didn't find it interesting. And again, this is not me faulting you or anything. It's just me explaining why you would go through the gymnastics of trying to figure out the timelines is because you were bored.
Yeah,
My
that's
brain
fair.
was not there. My brain was so deep into the story, trying to find those connecting fragments from every person's, involvement in this progression over the span of, how we'll say like 40 years or whatever that took place. It's
I think
probably
the
even
whole
more than
show is
that.
25, or no, it's
No, it's
30. It's
yeah, I
30
was gonna
because I
say
think it was
it's at least
5 years between part 1 and 2.
yeah.
It's
I,
5 or 10.
they
So it's
popped
either
up they topped up the years at the time, and I like I said, it's been a while since I've watched it, so I forgot. But um yeah, like I was so deep into like having this all wrapped up that
yeah.
I didn't even like it didn't even cross my mind that this was like a split timeline, fiction reality. I was like, no, because again, like being a person that enjoys history and at a time was planning to actually study history to a degree until I was like, no, law school sounds more fun. I don't understand why I did that, but um, I I really wanted to like major and teach history, and so like this was like right up my alley. I was like, oh sweet, especially in a time period that's really not taught much, especially like in public education, unless you go into higher education and learn about 15th century Europe. Most of my education in high school was like, let's talk about all the wars that took place throughout history. Spoiler alert:
Yep.
there's a lot that took place in the U.S. and is still taking place. So buckle up.
Yes.
So no, this was
Um,
this was a wonderful, wonderful ride, and definitely tickled that side of my brain that a lot of anime don't because it just was so history focused.
yeah. Just as a side note, Interstellar was nominated for 4 Academy Awards: Best Original Score, Production Design, Best Sound Editing, and Sound Mixing. It won Best Visual Effects.
I'm surprised I didn't win
Sorry, it
score.
was nominated for 5,
Ah,
won 1.
okay. Well, I was accurate in my assessment. Um,
Yeah. But
surprised I didn't
but
win
yeah, back
score.
to
The score was John Williams, right? No, not John Williams. Uh
give me a second. Music, Hans Zimmer.
Hans Zimmer. That's right. He also did the music
The other
for
it's the other wildly renowned composer in
composer.
movies.
Yeah, Hans Zimmer did that Leonardo DiCaprio one, the Inception and stuff. That
Yeah.
was Hans. And didn't Hans Zimmer also write music for Halo?
Hans I don't know.
I think
But
so.
yeah, Hans
Anyway,
Zimmer has fucking done
oh yeah,
everything and anything
he's
under the sun.
Him and John Williams are probably easily the best two composers. My third sneak in would be the lovely oh no, he always writes music for Tim Burton's films.
Oh, I don't know the name, but I know exactly who you're talking
You
about.
know,
I know exactly who
it'll
you're
come to me
talking
at
about.
some point.
Yeah. But no, I mean, again, to reiterate, I understand why it's critically acclaimed. I understand why it's beloved by a lot of people. Wasn't my topic, but I can still solidly say, like, yes, this is an 8 out of 10 show. Like, despite the things that I find wrong with it, those are personal things.
Mhm.
From a technical standpoint, I think that it does lose a little bit of marks on animation. It is pretty when it needs to be, and that is when looking at the sky. Other than that, it's a little butt ass ugly, uh,
I think it's kind of
which is fine.
I was like,
Which
it's
is
kind of
fine. It's a little
purposeful.
charming for the time period. It's a little charming,
Yeah.
but at the same time, it's just like it's not. When you see Yolenta in the background going fucking cross-eyed for no reason, you're like, okay, this is sure,
There
but
yeah.
yeah, I think that like again for me, it's a solid 8 out of 10. I would be going against my reviewing judgment if I gave it anything more than that. So,
That's
but yeah,
fair.
no, this is what I wanted to surprise you with. I've been wanting to do this for a while because you would shut up about this show at the end of last year and the beginning of this year, and you're just like, "It's the best. It's the best."
Look,
Now I've watched it. I can we can put this to we can put this to rest now.
I have a friend that you also know that he watches anime, doesn't watch like a crap ton, but he watches a solid
Right.
amount of anime. And I told him, I was like, hey, fantastic recommendation, Orb and the Movements of the Earth. I think it's right up your alley. He's a teacher, very smart guy. And I was like,
Yeah.
this kind of would be a perfect fit for you. Probably unlike anything you've seen so far. And I told him, I was like, I don't usually say this, but it is kind of like a once in a blue moon type of anime. Like it's a once in a generational type. Not saying that it is like the cream of the crop, but nothing's gonna ever beat it. It's gonna top the charts constantly. It's just you don't get the luxury of having an anime like this drop, every season or even every year.
Yeah.
Right? It's
This
just
is the
it's so unique in what it brings
yeah.
forward. And he was like, "All right, I'll take your word for it." And he watched it all and came and we talked about it. And he was like, "I've had so many friends tell me like you have to watch this. This is like the next generation of anime, and they've all failed me." And he was like, "This one, you did not disappoint." He's like, "This is by and far like the epitome of what one would consider a generational type of anime." And I think it's just
Yeah.
because it is completely separate from what we would
Yeah.
imagine coming out, quarterly, like every season, right? Like it's just
It is wildly different.
yeah,
Yes.
it's such a
And
unique
it also
offering.
helps that it's an open closed story. It's done, it's
Yeah.
finished, you can just go through all of it if you wanna read it all, great, you can read it all. If you wanna
Yeah.
watch it all, you can watch it all. Like, there are a lot of anime that just come out and they just don't end. So, like, the fact that it's a show that has an ending, it's also wonderful.
Yeah.
Sorry, let me rephrase. The fact that it's a show that is based off of a written piece of work and ends is wonderful.
Yes.
Because there are a lot of shows that, you can go out and read the rest of it, then it's because it's done, but it'll never get a second season. The fact that
Cough
this is
cough
like
Iran cough cough.
dude, we can be here all day talking
Yeah,
about
all
shit
this is
that
yeah.
actually ended. But yeah, no,
I mean, I would say that that's a convenience, right? It's it's
yeah,
it's a nicety
but
to
it's
know
also
that you
easier
can
to it's easier to convince somebody to be like, "Hey, it's 25 episodes. It's done. You're done with the
but
show once you're over."
I mean,
Like,
I could tell people that about Fooly Cooly. Like, go watch the first season of Fooly Cooly. It's a generational anime 'cause it's only 6 episodes. Doesn't make it incredible just because it's wrapped up in 6 episodes, right? Same with
that's
like, I
fair.
mean, even older anime, like everything that has actually concluded, that has a semblance of an ending or an actual ending, right? I, I again, the charm of Orb is that you're getting what effectively would be like a I don't know. I'm saying this because it's on Netflix, I guess, but a Netflix level drama series in the form of an anime. So like all the limitations you get with like a live action, those disappear in an anime because you have a lot of free reign to portray certain scenes and do certain actions how you will accordingly to
Yeah.
whatever freedoms you have to animate it. So I think that's a big charm to it too. And it just again, it's the story itself. You don't get like a historical story. You don't get a lot of these dramatized series that take place in the 15th century that are relatively grounded in historical fact for what was taking place during the time period, right?
Yeah.
You get like Saga of Tanya of Evil, which is like,
Saga of Tanya the Evil. Yeah,
yeah, which is like
it's
World War
historical
II.
dramatic,
Yeah,
but like it is
but
over the
not.
top and just like
They're
it's
over the
not.
top.
They,
They're flying in the air. And they
it's
like
not
bring
based in
down the
reality.
rain of heavens upon
It's
a
also an
town.
isekai, but okay.
That's what I mean. But that's what I mean. It's like you people will be like, well, there's historical ones too, and it's like, yes, but they're like over the top exaggerated versions to make it entertaining, right? This one Orb takes the identity of, I'm not trying to entertain you. I'm trying to educate you. I'm trying to provide you a glimpse into the past, and I'm trying to provide you a sense of, wow, this is just really intriguing. I'm not trying to wow you with explosions or fights or anything like that. I'm not trying to captivate you with ridiculous, animation quality or sound design or anything like that. I want to grab your attention purely based on my core elements, which are my story and my delivery, and that's it. And they do it
To be fair, there were a good amount of explosions in part 3.
in part 3 because they've found out about dynamite.
Explosives,
Yeah.
bagged dynamite.
One of the most powerful scenes was in part 3. I don't want to give this away. I don't want to spoil it because even if you have watched it, you'll probably know it's a scene with dynamite towards the end.
Yeah.
But it's something that's has like multi-layered, just powerful impact, dynamite power aside, on how everything's progressed to that end.
I thought for sure that dynamite was not going to go off, and they were just going to like talk it out, and he would flip sides. I thought that's
Oh
where it was
no,
going to go, and then it just happened in the blink of an eye. And I was like, oh, never mind.
yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, everything leading up to that was basically like yeah. It's
Yeah.
It made
It's wonderful.
sense.
That was the defining factor of part 3, where I was just like, yep, this is by far the best part of this show.
We talked
Because
about and we talked about the characters too. I think the most satisfying part about the characters themselves as well was every action that they took made sense for them. There wasn't like a scene where like the reserved character suddenly became the most charismatic, courageous person and did something like out of the ordinary, and they're like, well, it makes sense because of this, that, and another excuse. It's like, no, that doesn't fit them. Like every single thing each character did made sense for where they were at, personality and characteristics.
Conviction-wise.
Yeah, exactly. That's a much better word than I use. Conviction-wise at the time.
They used
and then
it a lot in the show. It's still ingrained in my brain. I'm like, I
good,
can
you're
sound
learning.
smart too.
I'm proud of you.
The one brain cell hasn't died today.
Yeah. But you saw those actions, take different shapes as they started to grow throughout each part. So again, there's so many fantastic things to talk about for this anime, and I think we've covered it to a full extent. And we also highlighted, or you highlighted specifically, how you might not enjoy this, because if you have no interest in history, if you have zero intrigue into like different scientific theory or like the church play
domination over the public,
like if that just does not appeal to you, if you just are like disgusted, but you're like, oh my god, ew, no, then you're certainly not gonna like this. It's not, and I've always said it's not for everyone, but if you want a wonderful, well written, just hand delivered, dramatized series that you just aren't gonna see often, this is perfect for you. If you can go in with an open mind, this is perfect for you. If you want to be enlightened, this is perfect for you. If you want to keep a closed mind and follow the church's teachings and say, yes, God, and, bow your head and not have a thought for yourself, then maybe not perfect for you.
Or it's an awakening for you.
No, I don't think. I don't think these people are looking for an awakening. I'm not gonna lie.
But that's fair. But
I'm happy that you watched it. I'm glad you watched it. This was quite a surprise, even though.
Before we wrap up, what did you think the surprise was? What did you think
I
I was
don't
working on?
I don't know.
You had no hypothesis?
No. Oh, look at you using big words now. Conviction hypothesis.
You know what? I was gonna yeah. Thank
You
you all for
did
joining
you
us this
did
week.
learn. You did learn.
Thank you all for joining us this week.
Oh,
This bitch tit and I are gonna head out today.
gold star for Frank.
We
Eh.
hope you enjoyed yourselves. Thank you for getting this far into the episode. If you like this, follow us on social medias at Bakacopodcast, wherever you get your social media feeds, except for Facebook because fuck Facebook, whatever.
We've
Um,
never we've never
I just
once
realized
mentioned Facebook. What are you talking
I
about?
I don't know. The brain cell is like rapidly deteriorating.
Like,
Okay, we've said conviction and hypothesis, and now it's gone. It's
okay.
we're in the
All
we're in the
right. All right. All
outro,
right. All
buddy.
right. Wrap it up then. That's fine. Wrap it up.
We will be back next week with a brand new episode. So until next time, Spark Triumph. We'll see you then.